Hi everybody, this is Maya Zahira with Psychic Protection Sanctuary, and we are now live in our free Facebook group, which is called Psychic Protection Sanctuary with Maya Zahira. And if you're watching this early on in the video, you are watching the replay, so welcome. I have a couple of announcements for you. The first is I want to share what our topic is for today, and it's a long one, so I have to look at my notes here. It's spiritual and inversions, hijacking, booby traps, and interference by dark forces. So it's quite a mouthful. I'm going to go over some things that you probably have noticed, but maybe it wasn't crystal clear or you didn't realize exactly what was happening, and I'm going to break it all down, explain what all of these things are, and once you get a better understanding of what these things are, then you'll be able to determine if these things have happened to you. Okay, so welcome to everybody. This is a Facebook Live in our free Facebook group. And so I want to take a second and give a shout out to those of you watching the replay on YouTube. I love my YouTube viewers, sending you so much love. I also want to send like a little tidbit of love to all of the YouTube trolls out there, because there are quite a few. And I just want to point out that the purpose of this Facebook Live, and this is pretty typical for Facebook Lives, the purpose is both teaching and interacting. So yes, there's going to be bantering. I get so many comments on YouTube like that they're mad that there's bantering and stuff like that. This is a Facebook Live, guys. So I actually do all these videos in the Facebook group, and then I upload them to YouTube so that more people can have access to them, so the public can have access to them. And a lot of people do appreciate that. So if it bothers you that this is a Facebook Live, this might not be the right channel for you. Sending you lots of love. Namaste. Okay. I want to get a little, now I'm going to banter. I want to get a little troll doll with the brightly colored hair, the little plastic doll, and like introduce that as our little like animal totem troll at the beginning of our class, and be like, hey, this troll is here to help move you along if this channel isn't right for you. Bye. We love you. So yeah, so there's going to be some bantering. I have a long background in teaching as well, so I am going to teach you stuff today. This is not just saying hi to people and shout outs. I'm going to be teaching you some important stuff. So because of that, I do want you to grab a pen and paper. We're going to be going through some technical terminology, and I think that it's going to be helpful if you can write it out and kind of map it out. So what I always like to do before we get into our topic, I like to get our announcements out of the way. And the announcements are important for some of you, not everybody, but we need to do it. And then while people are joining, go ahead and let us know where you're joining from. Lisa is joining. Where are you? You're in Utah. Lisa is in Utah. A happy Monday to you. McKenna is joining us from Colorado. Yes, you need a troll doll. Yeah. So more bantering right now. So I kind of just like laugh. It doesn't upset me. I just laugh. I think it's super weird, actually, how people feel like they can complain about like videos that are super free. I don't know. I haven't counted. I probably have like 50 hours of free content on YouTube that's just a gift to the universe. And it just makes me laugh that people are like, your videos have too much chit chat. Well, it's probably not the right channel for you, because the channel is literally all of the replays of my Facebook Lives from the last 5 years. So anyway, it makes me laugh. So yes, we need like a little mascot troll. Okay, announcements before we get into our very fascinating topic. I think it's a very fascinating topic. Okay, so we already did the YouTube shout out. Okay, so there's two announcements that I have for you guys today. The first is that for those of you watching the replay somewhere else, this is happening in a Facebook group. And if you want to join, I invite you to join so that you can participate in the daily posts. This free Facebook group is something that I decided to do back in 2016 when I was going through an incredibly stressful psychic attack. As a spiritual teacher, I'd been a spiritual teacher for many years, but I was going through something very unusual and unexpected. And during that time, I thought to myself, if I make it through this, which I did, I am going to have a support group because there's not enough support for stuff like this. And I wanted to have a free support group. And then I also have a paid program, which I'll talk about in a second. Hi, Tana. Long time no see. Tana is joining from Kansas City, Missouri. So this free Facebook group is called Psychic Protection Sanctuary. So if you're watching from somewhere else, I invite you to join the Facebook group, Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group. And it is free. It's a good place to be if you want to feel some support. If you just want to be connected with me, you're not ready to sign up for anything yet, but you just want to make that connection. We do have daily posts in there. And it's also a good place for people to post general questions. I don't do personal readings. And I don't read your energy or tell you what's going on in your situation. You actually have to sign up for my program in order to get behind the curtain, but you can it's still your first step in receiving support. So that's the Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group. And then the paid program is Spiritual Empowerment Academy. And you can find that and all of my other offerings on my website, which is Psychic Protection. It's www.psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. www.psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. And on that website, you'll find information about the Academy, and there's tons of support in there. It is a group program, but you know what I've noticed in some group programs, when you sign up for the group program, the person that you wanted to, like the teacher or the facilitator that you wanted is never there. It's always like their helpers or their assistants or whatever, their protege is in there, is helping, but you hardly ever or never see the person you thought you were signing up for a group course with. Well, I'm very, very, very involved with my group course. I'm in the Facebook group every day. I'm the one that teaches the classes and everything. So if you're interested and you want tons of support in a group format, then go there. Ivana is joining us from Croatia. Okay, I think we're done with announcements. Let's see. Yep, got it all done. Okay, so just a reminder that those of you who are here live, one fun little bantering thing that we do is that when you join, go ahead and tell us where you're joining from. So next month, when you come to the Facebook Live, you can get on and right away, you can be like, hi from Croatia or whatever. And by the way, I forgot to mention, for those of you who are new, we do have this free Facebook Live class every month. And it is always on the first Monday monthly. Right now it is at 1 p.m. It's for this whole season until we have the next daylight savings time change. For now, for this whole spring, summer, early fall, this class is taking place at 1 p.m. Pacific. If you're in the Facebook group, you'll get announcements and reminders, and you'll be able to see what time it's in your time zone probably. Okay. Today's topic. Oh, Rose is joining from San Antonio, Texas. Yay. And I want to say one more thing before we get into the teaching part of this. So in last month's Facebook Live, I mentioned something about that I was feeling kind of like I was bouncing off the walls a little bit, that I was having a little bit of trouble staying grounded because I was waiting on some news, but I couldn't share what it was. Um, the news was, and I didn't find out that day. I had to wait. It was like this long stretched out thing that was driving me nuts. Um, I was waiting to find out if a place that I wanted to move to was available and if I could move into it. And I moved to Tucson about 2.5 years ago, and I've been essentially in temporary living arrangements, including where I'm at right now. And I've been in temporary living arrangements that weren't really the what I was wanting, right? And so I was super excited, like, oh my God, I'll finally have my own place in the area that I want. And so I got it. And so in next month's Facebook Live, you will see a different backdrop because I will be living out in nature. Finally, as a nature girl, it's been so hard living in the suburbs. And before living in the suburbs where I'm at right now, I was in urban Tucson, or sort of urban. It was kind of urban, suburban. It was not the greatest area. I finally get to move out to nature. Those of you who know me are like probably applauding, like, yay. If you don't know me, you're like, who cares? But honestly, it helps support the work that I'm doing to live out in nature. This is pretty heavy, like heavy spiritual lifting kind of work. And not living out in nature was so hard. So I'm super glad. And I will have a very interesting new background for you next month. Okay, now without any further ado, we're going to get into today's topic. Today's topic is spiritual inversions, hijacking, booby traps, and interference by dark forces. That's a big mouthful. What the heck is all of that? You might recognize some of those words. You might feel like you have an idea of what some of that is. And we're going to go over it today. So I have actually 2 whole pages of tons of notes. I am going to be looking at my notes because there's a lot to cover. So I wrote down a question that I want to read to you. And then I'd like for you to have your hands ready. I want you to be ready to respond. Have you ever experienced pushback when you set out to do some spiritual clearing, like some kind of spiritual ritual, or you were going to read a book that was helpful to you about psychic protection, or listen to an energy clearing that you knew would be helpful to you, or you were going to access some information that you knew would be helpful to you regarding psychic protection, or you were getting ready to work with a healer. You were thinking about contacting a certain healer that you knew would be able to help you, or you actually had a session coming up, like maybe the next day or that day, and you ended up experiencing like what I'm going to call pushback. Like you had some weird interference, like an uptick in paranormal circumstances all of a sudden, just because you tried to access that information online, or your session with the shaman or the healer was coming up. All of a sudden there's an uptick in the paranormal circumstances, or you have physical symptoms, headache, dizzy, feeling unwell, emotional symptoms, feeling fear, nightmares, overwhelm, or you felt like you were being even blocked or messed with, blocking you from being able to even do the thing that you were trying to do. Have you ever experienced any of that before? And so before I go into teaching you about this, I would like to start a conversation. So I would like to invite you to share in the comments and tell me if you've ever had anything like that happen. Because, I can teach you all of what all of these things are, but in my observation, it's way more powerful when you hear it from another person, like another person on the path who's like you. So another member of the Facebook group or whatever. And if you're watching the replay on YouTube or somewhere else, you can put a comment in the comments section. So we also have a shout out to Joe. Joe is joining from Horse Ranch in Whitesboro, Texas. Awesome. Lisa is saying yes. So you guys, tell me, not a big long story because I won't be able to read all of that on my device, but like maybe a sentence of what kind of interference you were dealing with so I can share that with everybody. Joe is saying in the past, yes, but not recently. Thank God. So Joe, tell us, like, maybe give us a sentence. Tell us what that looked like for you so that other people know that they're not alone. Okay. Hi, Holly. Oh my gosh, it's so great to see you. I was literally thinking about you this morning. Like, I must have known I was going to see you on here. I was like, yeah, I wonder how Holly's doing. I should message her and see what's going on in Kansas. Lisa says, I have had most of these pushbacks. I call it harassment. Yeah. So while I'm waiting for any of your comments to come through, because it does take a minute for those to come through, I want to talk about my big point. I wrote this down, big point, stars, star, star, on my notes. This is what you need to know. The dark forces, and when I say dark forces, I mean like if you're under psychic attack, if there's an entity messing with you or entities, or if the negative forces of the universe just in general, you're on their radar, they don't like you, and any or all of the above includes the dark forces. The dark forces use manipulation and fear to get you to stop clearing them. So if there's an entity attached to somebody, that entity doesn't want to be cleared. So it's going to manipulate or confuse or cause fear to get you to stop doing the thing that will clear it. And if they weren't threatened, if that thing wasn't going to be helpful, if they weren't threatened by the thing you're about to do, they would not bother. They wouldn't bother to block you or make your computer shut down when you're trying to access something or trying to have an online session with someone that would help you. If they weren't threatened by what it was that you were about to do, they wouldn't bother. Okay, time for a drink. If you haven't grabbed your pen and paper, now would be a good time because I'm going to go over some terminology. So, I like to keep it casual on here. So, okay. So I'm going to be slurping my water. Okay. I want to just check my device real quick. Okay. So now we have a comment that just came through. Joe says, I have out of the blue felt exhausted and at other times sick to my stomach when she was getting ready to do something that was going to help clear out the issues. I have felt resistance to whatever I wanted to listen to just beforehand. So like, was it emotional resistance? Was it physical resistance? Probably a little bit of both, I'm guessing. Okay, so these are the ways that the dark forces try to interfere. So I talked about how they will use manipulation, interference, fear in order to get you to stop doing whatever would effectively clear out the issue. This is a list of how they do that. These are the categories, and there are 4. So the first one that I would list off is general interference. That's number 1. Number 2 is hijacking. Number 3, inversions, spiritual inversions. And number 4, boobytraps. So we're going to go over what all of those mean. And Joe is saying it was both for her, both physical, but more emotional resistance coming up when she was getting ready to do whatever clearing that she was getting ready to do. Okay, so these are the categories that I've created, but I want to acknowledge that there is some crossover, and these categories are kind of similar, but not all the same. So some of these things that I'm going to talk about might fit into more than one category, but I do think that categorizing these is helpful because when you're going through it, you can go, oh, there's some hijacking happening. And then instead of like spiraling out and spinning out and going, oh my God, I thought I could trust this thing, or I thought I could trust this person, and then like totally getting your fear activated and going into hypervigilant mode, which has happened to all of us. Okay. This is why I know what I speak of. So instead of the dark forces effectively like being effective in their approach, where they create the interference, and then it causes the person to spin out, and then they're like, oh my God, I can't trust this method or this person or this whatever that is supposed to be helping me, and then the person shuts down. And then what happens is then the dark forces are able to continue on. So it was for them, it was an effective interference strategy. Okay. So this is actually why I'm doing this Facebook Live, because I see it happen so often. It doesn't happen all the time, but it is definitely common when people who are having major psychic protection issues try to set out to do some big work in clearing it, then one or several of these things can get stirred up. And then sometimes the person will know what's going on, and they'll go, oh, this is happening because what I'm getting ready to do is going to work, right? But sometimes they don't know what's going on, and they get scared, and they say, oh my God, am I doing something wrong? Maybe I should stop, right? And so the more you know about this, the more in your power you can be, and that stupid, lame manipulation technique won't work. Okay. All right. Rose says that what happens to her is distraction. She gets distracted. Yeah, that's interesting. Very cool. What comes to my mind, I think the most frequent thing that happens to me is what a lot of people call OCD mind loops, OCD mental loops, where like these obsessive thoughts and worry and ruminating. That's one thing that happens with me. And then when I recognize, oh, this is happening, and I realize that it's some interference, then I will sit down and I'll do some clearing work on myself. And then that releases it. Joe says, agreed on the distraction too. Yeah. Okay. So let's get into number one, general interference. What does general interference look like? Again, we're talking about, these are things that will happen or will get stirred up when you're getting ready to, like when you're just getting ready to start, or you are in the midst of engaging in something that's going to give you helpful information, or you're engaging in clearing, trying to clear, or trying to connect with someone who's going to help you clear. General interference. So all of a sudden you have a headache, you have an increase in anxiety, you feel like you're going to have a panic attack, you feel overwhelmed, you get nightmares, feelings of terror, an uptick in paranormal activity, or like direct psychic attack experiences. All of a sudden there's bad luck, or everything seems to be falling apart in your life. Any symptoms of psychic attack suddenly increasing. Also with general interference, one thing that I've noticed is that if a person is under a lot of attack and they try to connect with me for a private session, sometimes their phone call will drop. Usually we'll meet on Zoom. So what that usually looks like is when we get on Zoom, they can't connect fully, or I can't hear them, the sound isn't working, or like whatever, there's some kind of interference. And so we are unable to connect in that way. But I don't let that deter me. I see exactly what's going on. And I go, okay, well, so Zoom isn't working for you. Let's do a phone call. No big deal. This is something that happens, and it just means that we're on the right track. So those are some types of general interference. But here's where it gets tricky. A lot of those, and it gets tricky, it gets confusing. a lot of those things that I just listed off, headache, anxiety, overwhelm, nightmares, terror, paranormal uptick, all of that stuff, those are symptoms of psychic attack. Those are symptoms of, like, if you were to connect with a predatory spiritual teacher, a predatory healer, and there are many, many out there, those that are charlatans and or those that are predators, that say that they help people clear psychic attack, and then they psychically attack and hook into the person. And it's just so unfair that like the divine source even allows that to happen in the world. But so if you're getting ready to access a video that's actually harmful, or you're getting ready to work with a shaman or a healer or a teacher who is harmful, or you're getting ready to go to a spiritual event that you think is going to help clear your energy, it's like a crystal bowl healing concert, but it's actually full of false light. And the people who are putting it on don't know how to keep people's energy safe. And so it's a dangerous environment. Or like whatever, anything that you're about to engage in that is actually possibly dangerous, then all of those things that I listed off are actually symptoms that they are signs that you could be going the wrong direction. So this is why the dark forces use this kind of interference, because it totally fucks with a person's head. It just does. There's no other way to word that. Because if somebody is learning about psychic attack and they've learned about the symptoms, and then they are getting ready to engage in something or get some help, and then all of a sudden everything increases, then it's only natural that they might think, oh my gosh, I'm getting psychically attacked more. This is a dangerous route that I'm getting ready to take. And they do that on purpose. The dark forces are very conniving, very strategic. They're just the ultimate strategists, okay? So this is why it's so important that you develop your intuition. I'm going to talk about intuition later on today, but this is why it's so important that you develop your intuition, that also when you encounter some kind of interference, that you do your best to just kind of step back, remain calm, get grounded, and get connected with your heart center, and connect with what is so what's really going on. Because if you get into fear, then when fear happens, then there's a lot of door slamming, and you might be door slamming things that are actually going to help you, but you also don't want to have no discernment and no boundaries and end up engaging in something that's going to be dangerous or harmful. So I want to emphasize the dark forces do this mind fuckery on purpose. They do that because it's totally confusing. Okay. So the more you can develop your discernment, the better. And if you're not sure, you can always take a breath, hold off, wait a couple of days, and create a little bit of distance from whatever the thing is in order to get more clarity. And usually when you do that, then the true answers will come from the truth within you. Because in the moment, you're more vulnerable to dark forces manipulating you to act from a place of fear. Okay, so that's number one, general interference. Number two is hijacking, and I've got some examples of this. And again, there's a lot of crossover because some of this might sound like general interference, but hijacking, here are some examples. If you go to a website, or maybe you're trying to access some of my material, this has happened to people before. They've tried to access something that's very helpful, and suddenly the website crashes, or they can't, they click on a resource, they click on a energy balancing audio session, or they click on a website that's helpful or something. And so let's assume here that it's helpful and that it's not something dangerous. Okay. So in a case where it's helpful, a helpful resource, the dark forces might block, hijack the computer so that the computer isn't working, the phone isn't working, so that you can't access the website, you can't play the recording, you try to press play and nothing happens. I've seen something that happens. I was just thinking a little while ago before I got on here, I was thinking about how about once a year there's something that I am informed of. And I'm going to tell you what this is. And it probably happens more than this. And this is why it's important for you to know about how this hijacking happens. Because if you don't know, then you think, then you get thrown off track. Okay. Daniel says they can make you sleepy to read useful information. Yes, they will put you to sleep. That is definitely one thing that they do. Okay, so this thing that I was getting at, about once a year, I'll get an email from somebody who says that when they opened my weekly email, something attacked them. And so this is actually, and this is where it gets confusing, because if you were to open an email from somebody who's harmful, there might be something that comes through the email or the video that would attack the person. And I've actually had that happen on my computer when I clicked on a Facebook page of a spiritual teacher and clicked on the video. An entity immediately came through and I was like, oh, this person is totally false light. I clicked off, I cleared. But the dark forces do this mind, it's just a mind fuck. That's really what it is. So here's what happens. Because I'm not sending entities through emails to people, I promise you. But you really shouldn't take my word for it or anybody's word for it. You should really, all that you can do is take this information and also develop your own discernment. Okay. So, but I'm just telling you, I'm not sending entities through emails to anyone. And what's happening to a few people here and there is that when they open the email from me or they start playing an audio, the entity or entities that are attached to that person start to freak out. And I'm not saying this from ego at all. I'm just saying this is something that happens. This is just stating a fact. Entities hate me, okay? If you've got an entity issue attached to you or in your home and you open an email, they might get mad, okay? Or you start playing one of my audios, that it might piss them off. They don't like me, okay? Like, here's an example. My car broke down like a year and a half ago. I had to call a tow truck, and then I had to call an Uber to take me home. And I had never used an Uber before, but the gentleman who picked me up late at night, as soon as I got in the vehicle, I realized that he had an entity attached to him. And so here he is driving, and all of a sudden he starts, I can't even imitate it. So you're just going to have to imagine. But all of a sudden he starts like twitching and doing these weird body movements because the entity is freaking the F out. Okay. Because I'm in the vehicle with the guy. The entity is freaking out because it thinks I'm going to try to clear it, But thing is if I'm like, I'm not doing a session for the Uber driver. I don't have, I'm very big about consent. I'm not going to try to clear off that entity. The entity doesn't know that. It's just threatened by me. It's freaking out and it's upset, and he's trying to drive, and he's all of a sudden, it was just the weirdest thing ever. Okay. So no, I didn't clear the entity off of him because I didn't have consent to do so. And when I'm out in the world, I just tend to let things be unless I am directly guided that I'm supposed to intervene. But that's an example. I actually had another time where I was traveling and I was unloading my car to go into the Airbnb, and there was a man walking by, and I glanced over at him and I saw a couple of entities attached to him. And all of a sudden he started freaking out. He was like, "Ugh," and then he started shouting, and he started having some kind of a fit, which to most people would look like he had a severe mental illness, which perhaps those entities, I think, maybe were causing him severe mental illness. But I've had that happen multiple times. This is why I say, and entities hate me. When they encounter me unexpectedly, then they get pissed off. Okay. So, these couple of times when people have sent me emails saying, when I opened your email, your entity attacked me. And I remember about a year ago or 6 months ago, I got an email like that, and I sat there and I just took a breath and I tuned in because I want to check like what happened. And I just felt very sad for the person because of what I was getting. And I also checked with a couple of colleagues. Like, I wanted to make sure, is this like what I think happened? Because I want to check myself too. All of us agreed this was actually something that was attached to the person, but the entity attached to the person, it acted up in such a way that she thought that it was coming from me. And what she said was, I'm terrified of you and don't contact me ever again. And that's very, there's nothing that I can do. I can't force anyone to see what's happening. But it's situations like that that are the reason why I get on Facebook Live and I explain, this is how dark forces manipulate people and freak people out and scare people so that they won't get help. Okay. And I have another story about online interference, hijacking. About 5 years ago, I had joined a business training kind of group. And so once a month I had a coaching session with one of the coaches, and it was it was like an hour-long session, excuse me. And most of the people in the program were just like different kinds of coaches, like wellness coaches and stuff like that. There was no one in there that did the kind of work that I did. And so it was actually, I was kind of an oddball, right? They didn't really understand what I did for my work. I didn't talk about it too much, but when I got on the call, when I got on Zoom to do this coaching session with one of the coaches, she was coaching me, doing some business coaching and teaching. And as soon as we got on, and she knew a little bit about what I do for my work, helping with paranormal issues. And as soon as we got on, all of a sudden, all this weird paranormal stuff started happening in her house. And she looked really nervous, and she was like, I guess that's coming from you. She was talking about me, and I was like, no, I had just been on 6 clients calls all day. And I had been on Zoom, I'd been teaching. No one had those issues. But when I connected with her, all of her Wookiees started freaking out. And I wasn't even connecting with her to do a clearing. I was just connecting with her for her to coach me in business. But they didn't know that, right? So they're freaking out. So anyway, that relationship was short-lived because they didn't really the program, I didn't really fit in there, but I wish the coach all the best. She actually said she didn't believe in that sort of thing. And so it was very interesting when all of a sudden all this stuff started happening in her house. Oh, I see some comments. Daniel says they can make you sleepy. Waleed says, can they give you angel number synchronicities? Yeah, so we're going to talk about that next. Okay, that's next on the list. Daniel says, that's your superpower. Yeah, they just don't like me. This is why, actually, if somebody, the people who are in my paid program that have access to my library of recordings, and actually I have some free recordings out there in the universe that you can access as well. What I tell people, if they're having issues, I tell them, like, just play a recording, like one of my clearings, even if you're not listening to it, just turn it on. You can turn it on low, and it acts like a bug bomb for entities because they don't want to be around that. They leave. So thank goodness. Okay, so we're talking about hijacking. I talked about how, like, if something positive comes through your email or whatever means this positive thing is coming through, the dark forces will jump onto that and make it seem like it's actually something bad. And let's see what else. Oh, actually, I've had a couple of instances of people who I was very grateful that they were very aware and very connected with their inner guidance, because there have been a couple of times when people have contacted me and said, and instead of getting scared and running away, they actually contacted me and said, hey, I had this situation where I saw you appear to me, but then, like, your eyes turned black and you looked all scary, or like whatever, just something seemed really scary. And I was like, oh, I'm really grateful that they contacted me. So this shows a lot of awareness, because they had a feeling that something was not what it seemed. And that's why they reached out to me. And their inner guidance was telling them, that probably wasn't actually Maya, but they wanted to check with me and see what I thought. And so what I said was, no, actually, I don't astral project myself to people. There are a lot of predatory spiritual teachers out there that do that sort of thing, and they ignore consent, and they astral travel and visit people and do all sorts of things. I don't do that because that's breaking consent. And I don't have, like, scary eyes that turn black. And so thankfully, these people that had this happen to them, when they tuned in to their own inner guidance, they realized, oh, this was an entity. It was it was an entity that shapeshifted. Now, there's a lot of false light. There are a lot of false light entities that love to shapeshift. Jinn entities love to shapeshift. Other kinds of entities out there are shapeshifters, and they'll pretend to be an angel. They'll pretend to be Jesus. They'll pretend to be Mary Magdalene. They'll pretend to be an ascended master. And occasionally, I've had circumstances where they will pretend to be me so that they can scare the person. Now, this hasn't happened very often. It's very, very seldom, but it has happened. And I've just been so grateful that the situations that I know about, these were people who were really very connected with their inner truth. And when they sat with it and they found their own answer, they were like, oh yeah, that was definitely not Maya. That was something pretending to be her, to scare them so that they would, just door slam and not be getting help anymore. And then they connected with me to just get some validation on that. So that has happened. Okay. Again, total mind fuck kind of stuff. Like, would you even imagine years ago, before I got into doing this kind of work? I mean, I seriously wouldn't have even guessed that was a thing. Like, I would never have even imagined it. And then another aspect of hijacking, here's where it gets even more tricky, is that a lot of times if a person has been under attack for a really long time, their intuition can get hijacked, because essentially they've been going through years and years of gaslighting. Like, these entities are messing with their head, like creating scary scenarios, and then the person doesn't really know what to trust. It's because when they connect with their own intuition, it's different than what's being shown to them, because what's being shown to them is manipulation, gaslighting, and it can really mess up a person's intuition. And then, and then it takes time to heal emotionally from that, so that the person can trust themselves again, and their intuitive sense can be rebuilt. Something that's very common is that when someone is under attack, their spiritual tools, their intuitive tools will be hijacked, like their pendulum, if they use a pendulum to get answers about things, or their oracle cards will be hijacked, so they'll get wrong answers. If it's supposed to be yes, the entity will actually manipulate the pendulum to make the answer no, and vice versa. This is actually where a lot of times when people join my paid program, there's a period of time where they're having to lean on me and the other members a little bit more, because their tools are not working properly. And then over time, then they're able to stand on their own and really connect with their own truth and intuition with more clarity. But when they first join, oftentimes there's so much interference, so much hijacking, that's super hard to do. And so that's very common. I do see like a transitional period where at first they do have to lean on me and others to give them intuitive clarity, give them information on what's going on, until they can begin to have more clarity and less interference. Joe says, that's the part that sucks, not being able to trust your own intuition. But Joe, I really think you are at the point now, with all the clearing that we've done, you are at the point now where there's way less interference than there ever was before. And you are getting clearer answers, because you will tell me things now, in recent time. You will tell me things that you're feeling or thinking, and I'm like, yep, that's exactly right. Whereas before, you weren't able to get the answer on your own. Joe says, LOL, how many decks and pendulums have I thrown out? Yeah, sometimes we do have to throw out our tools or set them aside until the attack is done. It's different for each person. Waleed says, is listening to the Psalms, the part that is not fanatic, while meditating, good enough to charge your aura? For some people, that is a very lovely technique. It's not for everybody. Some people really resonate with that, and some people not. So it sounds like that's a good method for you. Daniel says, I lost a friend recently. I saw her dark side, and they were communicating to me through her. It was freaky. I was told that she lives on the edge of darkness and to guard myself. Yeah, it sounds like there was some false messaging mixed in there. So take all of that with a grain of salt. Okay, take all of that with a grain of salt. Let me see if I left anything out regarding hijacking. Yeah, so another aspect of intuition being hijacked, I've actually had circumstances where from my own vantage point, from my own clarity, and I'm not saying I know everything, but just my truth and my clarity and my groundedness, I would observe someone who was getting ready to work with me they would suddenly have their intuition hijacked. Like even they would be taking steps to sign up for something where they would receive help, and then all of a sudden I would, like, next thing I knew, I would get a message from them and they would say that their intuition, their quote intuition, gave them a message that it's not the right timing to work with me, or that there's just something that's not aligned, or whatever the reason was. But it was their quote intuition that told them this. And from my my perspective and my vantage point from the outside looking out at what was going on with them, I took one look at that situation and I was like, no, you're actually being interfered with. Or I was thinking, no, you're actually being interfered with. That's not actually your intuition. This is some resistance, some hijacking that's coming up. But here's the thing, when that happens, when someone is in the middle of having that hijacking happen, they're usually not going to listen. Like if I say that to them, it sounds like I'm just trying to get them to sign up. Like they're just not able to hear what I'm saying. That's another reason why I do videos like this, where I just explain it all, and whoever wants to receive this information can receive it. And so, yeah, this like hijacking of people's intuition to get them to stop doing the thing that's going to help them. Waleed says, I can't say this word, Ho'oponopono, does that work? I have heard that the reason they attack you is due to something you did in the past lives, or something that you did that triggered them to attack. Okay, so Ho'oponopono, and sorry if I said it wrong, that is a method, it's a compassion method that some people use, that some people really enjoy, and it is helpful to some. I definitely don't think it's a harmful method. There's also another method that's called tapping, or EFT, where you're repeating statements and tapping on certain points. And both of those are helpful to some people. I actually didn't find either of those methods helpful. I use something called Compassion Key, and that's what I currently use, and it has helped me a lot. But I am also a very non-dogmatic person, and so we have people in my paid program who use, I just tell them, like, whatever works for you works. This is what I'm using for myself, and whatever other people are using to help clear their triggers, I'm all for it. Okay, so if that method is helping you, then great. And I want to really emphasize that what you've said is absolutely correct. When you have unresolved triggers, unresolved inner wounds, they will absolutely use those against you. They will find your triggers and like send people into your life to trigger those triggers. They will send situations into your life to trigger those triggers, and it's all part of manipulation. So the more that you can heal those triggers, the better. And that's been my personal, that's really what I'm working on a lot in my own personal healing journey. Years ago, I was having to clear out a lot of paranormal kinds of attack, which is why I got into doing this work. Now, I very rarely, knock on wood, have any issues with anything like that, with any like paranormal type of psychic attack, but I still have unresolved triggers, unresolved wounds. We all do if you're living on this planet. And so my focus in my own healing journey has been to clear that stuff out. And what I've found is that then they have less, the dark forces have less, they have fewer ways to get at me. And so when something happens, when somebody is sent into my world and they violate a boundary, or they do something that's like, oh, it's super triggering, and I could spiral out, and then the next thing that could happen is then it builds into another layer of psychic attack, and it's usually a layered approach to wear you down. I clear it out now. I clear it from myself. I clear the trigger right then or within an hour. As soon as I can go and do it, I clear it, and then it never builds into a full-on psychic attack. So what you've said is super, super, super important, and that's what I'm really into right now, because I want to get rid of every single access point that they could ever find. Of course, there's a lot, right? Because living on this planet it's a traumatic planet to live on. So there's a lot to clear. Waleed says, what about the light force? What can we do to help them in the context against the dark ones? Surely there are polar opposites of the dark forces. Yes, there are positive forces and dark forces. In terms of what can you do to help them, I don't know if this is what you're looking for, but I say every day do something to develop your relationship with them, with your spiritual allies, with the positive ones. And when you do that, that actually helps them help you. Because if you don't have any relationship established with them, then when you need help, then like it's just harder to get help from complete strangers, right? If you're just asking about how to help the light forces in general, just in a more general way, you can send them Reiki, you can send them energy, you can send them love, you can send them compassion, all of that. And again, speaking of compassion, the method that I use most is Compassion Key, and I use that a lot in my program. It's not very well known, at least not yet, but it's so powerful. It's amazing. Okay, so next, number 3 on the list is inversions. This is very similar to hijacking, but this is a word that I pulled out of my head because I was seeing some things happen with some people recently where things were getting flipped. And inversion means when something is turned inside out or it's flipped over, right? So by inversion, a spiritual inversion, what I mean is that something that would normally be good is flipped so that it's causing something bad. So for example, solfeggio frequencies, these certain sound frequencies are beneficial and good for most people. They are very helpful for me. They're helpful for a lot of people. You know, I'd say like 8 out of 10 people find them very helpful in clearing out entities. But yet maybe 2 out of 10, maybe 1 out of 10, I don't know, not the norm, will have an inversion where the negative forces, the psychic attack, the entities, whatever, will actually piggyback. And here's another important word. They will piggyback on the solfeggio frequencies so that when the person is playing the frequencies, then they start to feel like they're being attacked. Okay, so that's where it gets really weird. Now I want to, just for semantics, I want to explain with the sound, the healing sound frequencies, the difference between what an inversion would look like and what a hijacking would look like with these healing frequencies. So an inversion would be like what I just described, where the dark forces will piggyback on a perfectly good vibration. So let's say you're listening to something online, listening to some really beneficial frequencies on YouTube, and the frequencies themselves are actually very helpful and good, but the dark forces piggyback onto them and cause an inversion so that it's not beneficial for you. That's an inversion. A hijacking, this what I would describe as a hijacking would be when the person creating the YouTube music, and you may have noticed on YouTube, there are a lot of music creators who are creating sound healing music, and then they put that sound healing music out for you to enjoy. And let's say that it says that it's 528 frequency. It's for healing the heart and bringing high vibrations. Okay. And you click on it to listen to it, and the sound frequency itself has been hijacked because the person who created the music is somebody who works with tons of false light entities, and they think that they're working with Saint Germain or whatever ascended masters, and actually they're working with these false light entities that are very, very much troublemakers. So when the music is actually created from the beginning, it's hijacked. It's not even the beneficial frequency. It's got weird frequencies mixed in with it. So when you listen to it, it's gonna jack up your energy. Again, if you are somebody who likes to listen to healing frequencies online, you've got to work on connecting with your intuition, developing your intuition so that you can tell which tracks, which channels, which videos are beneficial and which are not. Okay. Numbers. Waleed was asking about angel numbers. This is another example of inversions. Angel numbers, well, I'm going to back up. I'm not going to call them angel numbers. I'm going to say numbers, sacred numbers, and sacred math, sacred geometry, like all of the workings of the universe. Like the universe is built upon numbers and sacred geometry. That's not evil. It is simply the construct of our reality. And sometimes we will see repeating numbers. Some of the repeating numbers actually tend to be good omens. Like you mentioned, angel numbers, that tends to be like 444. Those kinds of numbers. And if you study numerology, you find that certain number sequences mean certain things. But then, and that those would hold true for most people. But then if the dark forces come in and create an inversion to create confusion, they might have something scary or disturbing happen at 444, for example, when that's usually a positive number. And that's to throw the person off, scare them, and then not know what they can trust. Okay. We've got a comment from Joe. We used Compassion Key in one of our one-on-one sessions. It was amazing. Yes. We've been using it more and more, Joe. So you'll see, so we've got some coming in our Zoom, our monthly Spiritual Empowerment Academy class. I just finished our lesson plan right before coming on here to teach, and we're going to be doing some Compassion Key clearing regarding past and future lives, because the whole purpose of our program, of the paid program, is to be addressing and clearing everything and anything that might possibly be making you vulnerable to psychic attack, dark forces, interference, or even just having trouble managing your energy. And so we work on triggers, we work on past lives, we work on clearing our ancestral line, like all this stuff. And so we're going to be doing that coming up soon. And you are part of the program, Joe, so you'll be able to be a part of it. Rose says, whoa, I've had that happen with the music. Yeah, just really be careful with, like I love solfeggio frequencies, but you've really got to be careful with using the different frequencies online, because you don't know if it's hijacked or not. I have had a couple of students who, even when they use the tuning forks for solfeggio frequencies, so it's clearly the right frequency. I mean, it's not coming from some false light music creator. It's coming from your own tuning fork. But occasionally there are people that don't do well who don't do well with those frequencies. But honestly, I would say that's only 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 20, because almost everybody uses those to actually clear out negative entities, unless they're experiencing an inversion where what's normally good is not good. Okay. Let's see. And the only other thing that I had written down about inversions is if an entity that you're dealing with tells you that doing the thing that's going to help you will hurt you. So if taking a certain kind of medicine is actually going to help you, but there's an entity telling you, no, that's going to hurt you, it's going to cause this bad stuff to happen to you, that's an inversion. Anytime there's something good and then it's been flipped over to where it's made to look bad, that's what I consider an inversion. Okay. Number 4 on the list is booby traps. So I want you to imagine like the old Indiana Jones movies where he tries to go through the tunnel, and then all of a sudden there's like these knives and these spears, and there's like this ball that's gonna, this big stone ball that's gonna squish you and kill you when you're trying to get the treasure, right? This is something that I've seen a lot. It doesn't happen to everybody, but with everybody that I work with, I always watch out for it. And this is when you start to clear something, some kind of issue. It could be you're trying to remove an entity, or maybe you're trying to clear out something in your Akashic records, or you're trying to clear out some karma or a curse or a whatever you're trying to clear. And then all of a sudden, a whole slew of like other symptoms arise. So you try to clear out this one issue and you effectively clear it, but then all of a sudden it's like you've set off a bomb, and it is kind of like a bomb. It's like a booby trap bomb. All of a sudden, all of this other stuff happens. This is something I do see sometimes when someone has had a curse placed upon them, either in this lifetime or past lifetimes. There are instances where when the curse was placed upon the person, the dark magician or whoever the practitioner was, the evil practitioner, they actually would put things in place magically so that if the thing was attempted to be removed, then this whole slew of things would happen. And so if somebody doesn't know about booby traps and then they start to do something that's going to actually clear out an issue, let's say they're going to burn frankincense. That's a pretty simple, straightforward anti-demon tool. That's super easy to do. So they get ready to burn frankincense, but let's say however the issue is set up for them, there's actually some booby traps and they don't even know what booby traps are, and they burn this frankincense, and then all of a sudden like all hell breaks loose and there's like 10 more issues that they didn't even have before, and they think, oh, like they shouldn't have burned the frankincense. Well, actually there was nothing wrong with the frankincense, but they were dealing with booby traps, and this is where it gets tricky. And this is where it is really important to, if you already don't have super keen intuition and psychic abilities, then it would be good to work with somebody like me or somebody else who's very tuned in, who would actually be able to see the booby traps and know that they're there, and actually like deconstruct those booby traps or approach the clearing in a different way so as not to set off the booby traps. Okay. Because they are tricky, and if you don't see them, then you could set them off. And that is another thing that happens. And when it does happen, then the person thinks maybe what they did was wrong. It wasn't that it was wrong. It was that there were like little spiritual bombs that were set off that they didn't know about. So we are actually near the end of our lesson today. Does anybody have any comments, questions? I can hang out for about 3 more minutes before I gotta scoot, and I'm going to make some announcements too. Lisa says, the chain on my burner pot broke and the burning charcoal fell on the carpet. Oh yeah, that was interference. That was something trying to get you to stop doing the clearing. And, you know, a thought is popping into my head from that, and it's that when I first started to become more clearly aware of these kinds of issues, when there was interference, I used to, like, even with a client, if we encountered interference, I used to get nervous and I'd be like, oh no, like, oh crap. But like, if we would try to get on Zoom and the Zoom call wasn't working or something like that, and we were dealing with that kind of interference. And over the years, I realized, no, that's actually what they want. They want me to hesitate. But when any interference happens, hijacking, inversions, etc., I go, okay, I see what y'all are doing, and whatevs. Like, I'm going to keep on going, because what they want is to manipulate and to get you to stop. And they also want to make you scared. And so I no longer get scared about those things. I notice it. I go, oh, I see that. And I take it as information, and then I keep on going. What Waleed says, I have been in a situation. Oh, hang on. I think I missed a comment. Oh, okay. I hope I didn't miss a comment, but it's disappeared now. Waleed says, I have been in a situation where I felt abducted by grays. I still have the memory of it. Yeah, I'm not going to unpack that one. There's a lot there that could actually have been grays, and or it could have been something shape-shifting. I can definitely feel that it was a very scary situation for you. Rose says, thank you, Maya. Great info as always. Thank you for being here, Rose. Waleed says, they try to talk to me through people who have implants in my environment. It's strange. Yeah, I've done a couple of videos on what I've coined secondary psychic attack. And I kind of think there's going to be another video coming regarding this in a couple of months, because I have a lot more to say about it. But it's when someone else in your world who is not very aware of these things gets hijacked or interfered with to mess with you. And so you're being psychically attacked, but it's in a secondary sort of way. So Waleed, your question about the grays, that's more of a personal, it's asking me to do a personal reading. And since you're new here, I'll just re-explain to everybody that in the free group, I don't do any personal readings, but I do go in quite a lot of detail explaining a lot about how these kinds of spiritual situations happen, what's going on, and then that way you have a lot that you can build on. And then in my paid program, Spiritual Empowerment Academy, that's where I will actually do a psychic read on your situation. During our group Q&A, I could do that and give you some tips on what to do about it. Okay. Yeah, my comments are a little bit messed up because they're disappearing. So Ming says, when traveling to courtrooms or Akashic records, how do you make sure you actually arrive there instead of a fake place? Okay, Ming, I saw your question earlier in the Academy, and I am going to answer this in our members only Facebook Live tomorrow. I was going to leave a comment earlier, but I'll leave a comment after, and I'll tell you right now that I was planning on talking about it in the Academy. So I'm going to do that, and then we can go more in depth into your question, because it's a great question, actually. Joe says, thanks, Maya. Great to be back with the group. Waleed says, thanks. It's fine. You helped enough. You're very welcome, Waleed. And Hamad asks, what are grays? Well, they are a type of alien. So we can distinguish there are spiritual beings that sometimes mess with people. There are aliens, and then there are non-earth spiritual beings as well, like interdimensionals. So we get into all these things. The main things that I talk about in this group would be spiritual beings, demons, jinn, evil spirits, evil elementals, things like that. But I do work with the other stuff too. It just tends to need a different approach than the spiritual. Ming says, sounds good. Yeah, we're totally going to do that. because I want to go more in depth into that. Lisa says, thank you, Maya Zahira. You're very welcome. So I want to close by just recapping and just saying that this approach, this like interference kind of approach, can be very confusing if you don't know what's really going on. And the whole goal of the interference, the hijacking, the inversions, the booby traps, all of that is to confuse a person and to get them to stop doing the thing that they actually should be doing. And so what I've found over the years is the more you understand about their tactics, then the more protected you are, the stronger you are, because you see through it, right? The more you understand, like cognitively, the more you understand how all of these strategies work, then when they're employing those strategies, you go, oh, I see what you're trying to do there. Well played, but I'm not fooled. Okay. And then you also not only have that cognitive understanding, but you have your intuition that you're developing as well, your inner knowing. Okay. So that's why it's so important to understand all of these things. The dark forces are super tricky. In my observation, the mind games and the mental and psychological warfare is a method that is used way more than actual full-on like entity attack in a physical sort of way, although that happens too. But the emotional and psychological stuff and the manipulation, trying to get you into fear, trying to confuse you, that's like super, super, super common. Okay. April says, hey, thanks. I just got here, so I'll have to watch the replay. April, your jewelry that you're making is so amazing. I'm going to start to cry. Like, it is, you have a gift. I'm not just saying that. Yeah. April makes wire wrapped jewelry. It's amazing. So if you, if you want to drop a link of how they can connect with your wire wrap jewelry, I definitely invite you to do so. Okay. If you've got like a business page or a page or whatever, however they can connect with that, because it's seriously amazing. You are gifted. Hamad says, from what I know, aliens are not spiritual beings like angels and demons. Yes, that's correct. They are physical beings. So aliens, how I would define them, they are physical beings that are not of this planet or not of this time. But then it gets tricky because there are alien beings that are spiritual in nature and interdimensional beings and all of that. Yes, I hope I answered your question. And we can always go more into that in the academy if you want to. Okay, yes. So I'm going to close out by just reminding everybody that we do have a Facebook Live, a free Facebook Live class every month. And I cover a different topic each month. And it is always on the first Monday monthly. Right now, at this time of year, it's at 1 p.m. Pacific. And you can just adjust that to your time zone. And then, and now we are in spring, summer, early fall. In the winter, it adjusts an hour, but I'm not going to even tell you what that is because I don't want to confuse you. But it's during the day. If you're in the United States, it's daytime, and 1 p.m. Pacific. And so mark your calendar. We always have it, so you can mark your calendar 1 p.m. Pacific or whatever time zone you're in, the first Monday monthly. And you could still mark your calendar. If you work during that time, you can still put a reminder for yourself so that you could come back and watch the replay. The replay is always posted immediately right after, like within 3 minutes, Facebook automatically posts it. So if you're watching this somewhere else, I invite you to join our Facebook group. This is a safe, sacred space. So I don't let trolls in. I don't let people who have fake profiles into the group. And so when you click to join the Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group, you do have to answer the 3 questions. If you don't, I deny you. I don't let you in. So you do have to be a real profile and a real person and answer the questions. If you would like to work with me more deeply, you can do so by checking out my website, www.psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. And on the website, you'll find my academy, Spiritual Empowerment Academy, and that's where we go way deeper. There's a ton more support. Instead of just having a Facebook Live once a month where we talk about introductory information, we go a lot deeper, and we focus a lot on getting to the root of the issue and actually clearing things and how to do all of the different kinds of clearings. It's very, very, very comprehensive, and lots of support from the group and from me within the group format. So I invite you to check that out. It does require an application because it is a sacred, safe space. So we don't just let anybody and their dog join. You do have to fill out an application and really put some thought into whether you really want to jump into the journey. And I think that's it. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Oh, and April says that her website is Psychic Reiki. Or actually, I'm going to read on Facebook. You know what? I can't read I can't figure it out. So I'm going to let you guys look at the link. But I think it says Facebook at IV Strokes. IV Strokes. Facebook at IV Strokes. Her website is psychicreiki4strokesstudio.com. But I wasn't sure where all the spaces, you've got some spaces in there. So April Funk is her name, and lots of really cool jewelry that's wire wrapped. Thanks, everybody. I don't know yet what our topic is going to be for next month, but I will be moving. Ooh, I think I know what our topic is going to be. I was thinking about this. I think our topic is going to be tips for what to do before you move into a new place, maybe, or I might save that and make that a bonus class for my Academy members. Actually, sorry, I don't mean to dangle the carrot. I think that's probably what I'm going to do. So I don't know yet what our topic is going to be for next month, but you can always post requests or send a request of a topic that you'd like for me to cover. Keeping in mind that the free Facebook group, we tend to cover topics that are more beginner, introductory oriented, and not super in-depth, super advanced. The advanced stuff would be for the Academy. So let me know what you'd like. Thanks, everybody. Have a beautiful day, and I will see you next time. Bye.